This broadcast will start in 30 seconds. This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, The Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Phone Booth here on KXVS, The Voice of San Joaquin. My name is Brian Rodriguez, and with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host Ed Heitman, who's over there running the board, and our frequent guest Ira Ford.
Yeah,
Thanks
hello.
for being here, Ira.
Yeah, thanks pretty much for today.
In case you're new to the show, The Phone Booth is a show completely dedicated to the world of pop culture. Anything from movies to TV shows to video games, we try to cover it as best we can. Now, without further ado, let's get into our weekly recap. It was announced this week that WWE star Ronda Rousey will be voicing Sonya Blade in the upcoming Mortal Kombat 11. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, that's amazing news actually. So apparently, Ronda Rousey has been like a fan of Mortal Kombat since like she said she was like a little kid though, because yeah, she said she'd always looked up to Sonya Blade as one of her favorite characters in the game, and that she used to play it a lot as well. So yes, it's actually a dream come true for her to be able to voice Sonya Blade, a character she's looked up to for quite some time. And well, on the plus side, also the game itself, Mortal Kombat, looks pretty great as well.
Oh yeah, as usual with the Mortal Kombat game, the graphics look really, really good. And honestly, of any role in the Mortal Kombat franchise that Ronda Rousey would take part in, it should be Sonya Blade. If I were ever to think if there was a character that Ronda Rousey should be in, it should be as Sonya Blade. So I'm glad that it actually got to finally happen.
Yeah, apparently she got the role after, I believe, last June, where she gave an interview saying she'd like to do voice work for the series. NetherRealm Studios, the developers of Mortal Kombat, just sent her a letter saying, hey, want to come be Sonya Blade?
That's awesome. I think that's such an awesome opportunity.
It is great.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat, still one of the best fighting game franchises around, along with like Street Fighter and all that. So it's still good to see it going strong, and the fatalities and the all the brutality and all the blood and gore. It's pretty much returning to the series.
It's an
iconic. It's known for.
Yeah, it's an iconic video game series, and it's the one that gave us the ESRB ratings on our video games because it's so violent that the parents got upset. So it's good to see that it's still thriving.
What are the new characters that you guys saw from? If you watch the gameplay reveals for Mortal Kombat 11, what you like about it the most that you saw or anything?
Well, I never really got to see like the full gameplay reveal and all that stuff, so there are a lot of characters that I haven't had the opportunity to see, but I saw Sonya Blade and I thought that her character design looked pretty good. I saw Sub-Zero doing one of his entrances. I like how they changed his mask a little bit. It looks a little different. And then I also saw the trailer before that where they teased the fight scene between Scorpion and Dark Raiden. Or Raiden, I forget how to pronounce his name. I keep getting confused with the other Metal Gear.
Yeah, you could just say Raiden,
Yeah, and I saw that fight scene. I thought their character designs looked good too. One thing I would like to point out, though, that kind of concerns me about the new Mortal Kombat game is that they're kind of doing the same thing that 76 did, and they have a very expensive collector's edition with a capital K. It's $300. It has its steelbook case, a couple of pendants with the MK logo, and but I'm interested in it though because it also comes with your own Scorpion mask with its own hood and stuff.
I guess it's good for those who are really diehard fans of Mortal Kombat and are really want to be a huge collector of AAA fighting game like this. So for them, but I guess if you're more casual or not like super into Mortal Kombat, then I guess it's it's okay to just pass it and just get the game itself or something.
Well,
like
I mean, hey, if you're interested in getting the collector's edition, I have no problem with it. Feel free to do as you want. It's just, I really hope that the hood doesn't really come up with like cheap nylon, as with the whole Baggate controversy surrounding the collector's edition of '76.
Oh, we can only hope.
Yeah. On to the next little bit of news, though. We've talked a few times about the lawsuit between Bethesda Studios and Behavior Interactive over the Westworld mobile game. In case you're not aware, Bethesda alleged that Behavior had stolen code from the Fallout mobile game and repurposed it. The lawsuit ended about a week ago without a clear resolution, but until now, Westworld Mobile has been pulled from app stores and will go offline on April 16th. I guess it's unfortunate that they had to go. I'm not familiar with the Westworld series. I've heard it's really good. A lot of people giving it a lot of praise.
Yeah,
and stuff.
it is a pretty good show. The mobile game, I'm not really familiar with this story myself, but I think I might have heard some backlash between Bethesda and this studio here. So
yeah, it's very similar to Bethesda's game Fallout Shelter, in which you're the overseer of your very own vault. You slowly build it from the ground up, collect more dwellers, send them out on missions, get resources and stuff. And the Westworld mobile game is very, very closely similar.
It's almost identical except for art style, because Behavior Interactive worked with Bethesda on Fallout Shelter. And the accusation was that they stole the base code for Fallout Shelter, which was Bethesda's property, and used it to build this new game, to the point where some glitches from Fallout Shelter that, were present in the game at launch were present in Westworld Mobile at launch. Identical glitches.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah. So I'm not familiar with this Westworld mobile game. So
I can understand Bethesda's reasons for wanting to take Behavior to court. I can't really feel bad for the Westworld mobile game because it is very, very similar and everything, and these kind of things are prone to happen when you have copycats. I mean, there's the whole Radical Heights situation with Fortnite and everything.
I think the Westworld franchise or series itself does have potential to find a game developer, I guess, to go into the world of interactive entertainment. Hopefully they find the right partner soon, though.
Honestly, it sounds like a franchise that probably would have been pretty good as a Telltale game, from what I've been hearing from people.
Yeah, it probably would have.
But
unfortunately for Telltale,
unfortunately Telltale, its tale has ended. It's unfortunate, I guess, to hear that the mobile game had gone. I don't really feel bad that they closed because there's evident reason why, but there are fans of Westworld who probably enjoyed the game, and now it's gone. So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because there were definitely fans of the game out there. I mean, it was at launch one of the top charting games in the iOS, Android App Store, things like that.
Yeah. Anyways, Brian, on to the next little bit of news.
Pinkerton Consulting, the current name for the historical Pinkerton Detective Agency, is suing Rockstar Games over the appearance of Pinkerton agents in Red Dead Redemption 2. I should have rewritten that so I didn't have to say Pinkerton so many times. They are alleging that the organization appearing in Red Dead Redemption 2 violates Pinkerton's copyright, so they have sent a cease and desist to Rockstar, demanding a portion of the game sales or potential litigation. This is despite the fact that Pinkerton is sort of deeply entrenched in that time period, in that area of the U.S. They're famously sort of the bad guys of a lot of cowboy stories. They helped bust unions. They helped civilize, and I can't say that with enough air quotes.
They were very important in the tale of Billy the Kid.
They've been pretty much used in a lot of different Western type pop culture for like about a century, like old Western movies from like I guess 1960s and 50s and stuff like that, or and even TV shows as well, Western shows. And so for them to just come out to Rockstar like this, like they're like only the first Western type of entertainment to use this Pinkerton agency. It's kind of bizarre though, cause
if Red Dead Redemption was the very first game to use the Pinkertons, I could understand the Pinkertons being like this, especially if they were misrepresented in Red Dead Redemption 2. But it's the fact that they've appeared in all sorts of Wild West related things. You know, whenever there's a huge universe surrounding the Wild West, the Pinkertons are bound to pop up.
Because they're just so deeply entrenched in the time period. You can't get around them.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine not all of these properties have, gotten Pinkerton's permission to portray their, organization as. It's almost always portrayed as some sort of, villain or bad guy, or at least some unstoppable force trying to thwart the hero.
Especially because that was kind of how Wild West tales were back then. The outlaws were always the hero and the authority were always the bad guys. And it's odd. And when you look at it from an outside perspective, it seems as if the Pinkerton agency is trying to ride off of the success that is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
Because upon its release, it was talked about everywhere.
One of the best-selling games of 2018.
Yeah.
Yep.
All over YouTube, all over the web, all over website articles.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even
the
South Park did a
year.
running joke on Red Dead.
Yeah, it was basically the biggest, aside, I guess, from like Infinity War, it was the biggest pop culture type entertainment event from 2018 last year. Red Dead Redemption 2, yeah.
Probably the biggest video game of 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's received pretty good popularity, about as much popularity as the Skyrim when it first dropped in the video game industry.
But yeah, so it is bizarre for Pinkerton to just come after Rockstar, but yeah, they're probably not going to win like this lawsuit or anything anyway, because
there's too much evidence of them not protecting their copyright, which in U.S. copyright law, if you don't protect your copyright, you just sort of lose the right to enforce it. It's not the best system, but it does protect people like Rockstar. It does seem like Pinkerton just wants a slice of the pie.
It really does. It really does. Well, anyways, on to the next little bit of news. Ubisoft's space game, Pioneer, has been cancelled, unfortunately. Little was known about the game, but it was announced inside a mission in Watch Dogs 2. Apparently, the game's development has been troubled for some time. On January 15th, the game's director, Alex Hutchinson, tweeted out, "Rest in peace, Pioneer," along with the short trailer from Watch Dogs 2. Now, this is unfortunate, because it's always a bummer when you get somebody really, really hyped about a video game and then just drop the project entirely. This isn't the first time that this has happened. I'm not sure if this is the first time with Ubisoft, but there's been multiple instances where people were really excited about a game only to hear after a good while of waiting that it's been canceled.
Yeah. Didn't they, I guess, so they said it was in a mission in Watch Dogs 2 when this was announced, so did they like stay silent about this before announcing it since then or something? Or?
Yeah, what happened was there was a mission in Watch Dogs 2 where you hacked into Ubisoft to steal a game trailer and sell it to a news site, and the trailer was this short little thing showing a space station and a few spaceships, and it was for Pioneer. However, apparently even at the time it was put into the game, development for the game was sort of on the rocks, not a lot was happening, a lot of money was being wasted, there wasn't a lot of direction, and nothing has been said about the game since its announcement in Watch Dogs 2 until now. So it looks like it was simply a game that, at the time they started making the mission, it was on track, but somewhere between then and the launch of the mission, it, went off the rails, and it's now just...
So it was pretty much just a concept, I guess.
I mean, they had footage for it, and it looks like they may have had gameplay for it, at least. But it looks like it was just never able to really come together, which is unfortunate.
I kind of hope that there is some gameplay footage out there, because even if it wasn't fully developed, I mean, they were able to make a trailer. There has to be at least like a small little segment of gameplay footage they could release as like a demo or something like that, Even if it's at least give somebody the opportunity to see what it could have been like, because sometimes video game projects do get dropped. They do get canceled. But then long afterwards, they can get resurrected again and brought back to life.
Like that actually happened with Prey. The Prey 2 was canceled, and so they brought that back as a new basically game. So it could be a similar situation with this, but yeah, it might be years if it was to happen. Yeah.
I don't doubt Pioneer will come back, mainly because Ubisoft's entire lineup, they've got, Assassin's Creed, they've got the new pirate game Skull and Bones coming out, they've got the Far Cry series, which is a more modern thing. They're missing something futuristic or space-oriented to sort of, round out all the genres.
Yeah, Ubisoft usually goes for, I guess, more of those, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess realistic type games, like, like the Far Cries or...
Yeah.
tropical type games.
And when Assassin's Creed first started, it also was like very, very heavily like it tried its best to be historically accurate.
Yeah.
But there were sci-fi elements, and
There
there's
were.
Yeah,
Because of the
and
whole
spin-offs,
animus
yeah.
aspect of it.
yeah.
And even they did that with Far Cry as well, also with the Blood Dragon and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. But then Far Cry 5 kind of explained what Blood Dragon was. There's actually a side quest where you help a director create a movie called Blood Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
it's-
go. It was a nice little reference, I suppose. Anyways, Brian, on to you for the next little bit of news.
Dan Trachtenberg, director of 10 Cloverfield Lane and the Portal fan film No Escape, has been hired to direct the upcoming live-action Uncharted movie.
Oh yeah, the Uncharted movie. Yeah, so they've been actually trying to get this find a director for this for I think a couple of years now. Actually,
They had one, and then
Yeah.
they lost one.
and apparently it's still going to be starring, I guess, like Tom Holland or something.
Tom Holland playing
Yeah.
as a younger Nathan Drake, and then
Yeah.
there are some reports that claim that Chris Pratt is going to be in there as a young Sully, but then
Yeah.
also if you look on the Google cast listing, it only shows Tom Holland and then Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
So maybe Bryan Cranston would be playing the role of Sully, but we're not even sure. He could just be playing a bad
Yeah,
guy.
they still haven't really found a person or announcer or anything who's going to be playing the adult Drake though, but still, it's
And they claim that this is going to be like a prequel
Yeah.
compared to the video games. But I find it odd that it's a prequel, but it's also titled Drake's Fortune, which was the title of the very first Uncharted game.
And
Yeah.
see, that's what some sites are calling it. I've also just seen it called Untitled Uncharted film. I think if it is called Drake's Fortune, that's just going to be a placeholder or possibly a holdover from when it was going to be an
Yeah.
adaptation of the first game before it became an in-canon
Oh, yeah.
prequel.
Okay.
but yeah, I just hopefully if this does end up happening, which might, but that they could at least make it different enough from, I guess, something like in Tomb Raider from last year or
Fair enough.
but the upcoming video game movie that I'm actually surprisingly looking forward to the most is Detective Pikachu though.
Yeah.
that does
Yeah.
look good.
There are some pretty good video game adaptation movies that are coming out at the moment, which is a shocker considering that video game adaptations hardly ever succeed in Hollywood, just like live-action anime adaptations.
Well,
Yeah.
But
turns out the secret is actually putting in effort.
effort and actually,
Caring.
yeah, a little bit of you got to care about it. Yeah. Anyways, on to the next little bit of news, ladies and gentlemen. It has been announced that there is a new Ghostbusters movie in the works. Directed by Jason Reitman, little is known about the film other than it won't be a sequel to the 2016 Ghostbusters film. And I'm probably the unpopular opinion here, guys, but I am not really looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
I guess
We had Ghostbusters 1, which was great. It was a really good Ghostbusters movie. But then I didn't care much for Ghostbusters 2 when that came out. It was fun, but it just didn't have the same feeling that the first Ghostbusters had.
Yeah, actually, Ghostbusters 2 was actually my favorite of all the Ghostbuster films.
It did.
But
It did
yeah.
have its really good moments.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the ghosts were in the paintings and all that stuff, and they
Yeah.
even made reference to that in the reboot in 2016. But then there was the 2016 version of Ghostbusters as well. I didn't really care much for it because I felt like the jokes fell flat. In the first Ghostbusters, the jokes were always like a conversation leading up to a punchline,
Yeah.
while with the reboot, it felt like the punchline was dropped on your lap and you had to chuckle
I
at
actually
it.
think most people just consider the 2016 Ghostbusters movie as a movie that takes place in like an alternate reality, but it's still based on Ghostbusters, though.
It
Yeah.
kind
Pretty
of does
much,
take
yeah.
place in the alternate reality just because of the fact that Bill Murray appears, but he's not playing the role of Bankman, which is
Yeah.
odd. Because like, why miss that opportunity? You know, you could have had a nice little moment where it's like the old Ghostbusters passing the torch along to the new ones, and I bet you a lot of fans probably wouldn't have been as upset if that were the case. But instead, he came in as a random person, and he was gone as quickly as he appeared. You know.
Yeah, he wasn't the only one from the old films that appeared in the 2016 one, though, as well. I guess other.
Sigourney Weaver appeared, I know, and I think one of the other
Yeah.
original Ghostbusters appeared. It was, I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
But Bill Murray has actually been somewhat vocal about not really liking returning for Ghostbusters properties. He really phoned in his appearance in the 2009 game. And with 2016 Ghostbusters, I'm mad at it because it was bad, not because it had women in it, but because they had such great female comedians. They had Melissa McCarthy, they had Kate McKinnon, they had Kristen Wiig, they had Leslie Jones. These
Great people.
Great comedians, and it feels like they just wasted them on a really badly written movie.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what the problem was is that you had all these really great comedians, but they relied so much on what I like to call cringe humor. Where it's like someone acts really weird or embarrassing, and then it's like the next few seconds is everybody kind of being embarrassed or acting awkward around this person who's acting awkward. Like Chris Hemsworth's character in that movie.
Hey,
it seemed like his whole purpose was just to do cringe humor.
You know what? I got a question. Hey, what if this new Ghostbusters movie that they announced, what if it comes out and it appears to be an animated Ghostbusters movie?
I actually would really like that.
Actually, they are working on an animated Ghostbusters movie. It's not in full production yet. They've actually said they're going to wait until the new live-action one comes out, but they are working on one.
Okay.
Because they've had Ghostbusters cartoons in the past. And I did enjoy the Ghostbusters cartoons in the past, even though it wasn't the original cast of Ghostbusters in some of them. In fact, there was one that I really enjoyed that happened to have a gorilla that was their partner and everything. And even that somehow was fun to watch.
You mean, I think I know which one you're talking about. One, I think that's one from like the 80s or something.
Yeah, the one where Prime Evil was the main
I think
bad
that was
guy.
an entirely different type of show, not really based on the Ghostbusters that we know.
Yeah, but they still used the
they just called it Ghostbusters by name.
Yeah. But I mean,
it happens.
It's animated Ghostbusters happens to work, and if they did another animated one, especially if they used like CGI or something, I'd like to see a Ghostbusters animated film created in the same way they did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think if they used that style of animation, it'd be beautiful.
It is by Sony Animation, so that who owns Sony owns like the rights to Ghostbusters. So that's actually possible. I think.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Oh my god. Anyways, on to you, Brian.
Speaking of reboots, there is now a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie reboot in the works. We know pretty much nothing about the film other than it's supposed to start production this year. It is supposed to not take place in the Michael Bay continuity or any other previous movie continuity. It's going to be a full reboot again.
Yeah, so I guess it'll it was just the question is who's going to be like attached to it pretty much, and
no idea yet.
Yeah, so this new Ninja Turtles movie, if it's going to be live action, I wonder how they're going to make it different from, I guess, the Michael Bay productions. And
can I just say, I'm glad that Michael Bay's not working on this one.
I think everyone's glad Michael Bay's not working on this.
But that's pretty much the only plus, I guess, is that Michael Bay's not attached to this new reboot. So
because I mean, you could tell that Michael Bay tried. It didn't do well, but I can at least say from looking at it that Michael Bay certainly at least tried, at least with the first one. But then the second Transformers, I keep thinking Transformers because it's Michael Bay. The second Ninja Turtles movie that he worked on, that had the case of Transformers syndrome, a term that I always use, where the first movie is really, really good, and then the second movie flops because it tries so hard to be 10 times more epic than the first movie. It's a perfect way of explaining it is it overuses the rule of cool. It's something that Monty Ohm used when he did the first 2.5 volumes of RWBY, and he also did the Dead Fantasy franchise on YouTube, to where things are so cool you could kind of ignore the logic sometimes because of how cool it is. But then that's where Transformers syndrome comes in, where like each movie tries so hard to up the other, you have to crank up the rule of cool so much that eventually people start questioning the logic, and then it starts losing its coolness, to where it's like with the Transformers movies, what once started off as a really cool fight scene becomes a bunch of metal rolling around on a giant screen.
Hopefully, if this new Ninja Turtles movie actually does have a darker tone than the Michael Bay movies as well, and it actually feels more like a ninja movie than like a.
That's nice. I appreciate the more darker versions of the Ninja Turtles. It reminds me of the 2004 cartoons that used to be on every Saturday. Those ones had a much darker tone than the Ninja Turtle cartoons you see nowadays because they try their best to be a ninja show.
Actually, the other one as well that I talked about earlier, the 2011 one, actually had a darker tone as well.
That's true.
But yeah, so hopefully they take more inspiration from those cartoons instead of like the recent Michael Bay movies when they start working on these new reboots if they do happen.
For sure. On to the next little bit of news. Greg Daniels, former showrunner of The Office, and Steve Carell, one of the main actors in The Office, are teaming up for a new comedy show on Netflix called Space Force. The show will be a workplace comedy about the newest branch of the U.S. military. Carell is set to star, but no other details have been announced. I will watch this.
Yeah.
Only because of the fact that I like the idea of the Space Force. I always wanted to go into outer space. And then it also plays on the fact that the idea of the Space Force also in itself is just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever watched the show called The Orville?
I've heard
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
kind of. I'm kind of getting that type of vibe from hearing about the Space Force.
Yeah.
It's actually a really good show about the people in like similar to Star Trek, I guess.
Yeah,
but
Seth
it's more
MacFarlane's in that
MacFarlane,
one.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's.
I heard
I
it's a good
think actually, if this is like that, then yeah, I'll actually enjoy it because that's also a comedy as well. And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what this is sounding like. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, this is an actual branch of the U.S. military now, so...
I kind of hope. I mean, I really like The Office, but I kind of hope that it's more like Parks and Recreation. I know the two shows are kind of similar, but Parks and Rec was a lot more looser, I think, than The Office was.
Yeah, Parks and Rec, they actually have said that they were allowed to ad-lib a lot more than they were on The Office, which I think added to some of the charm of the show.
And I kind of hope that that's the case. I mean, but then again, it has its own opportunity of being unique, just like how The Office and Parks and Rec were unique in their own individual ways, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyways, on to you, Brian.
So, last month, in early December, YouTuber Star Wars Theory released the first part of his Darth Vader fan film entitled Vader. The film portrays Vader during the period between episodes 3 and 4 and was created with the permission of Lucasfilm and Disney, with a few stipulations. He couldn't crowdfund for it, he had to pay for it with his own money.
And he couldn't put ads on his video either.
Yeah, he couldn't monetize it in any way. And he abided by all those rules and got it made. But despite this fact, earlier this week, Disney subsidiary Warner Chappell issued a copyright claim against the video as it used a cover of the Imperial March, which, as a music-based subsidiary, Warner Chappell had the rights to because of the immensely complicated web of rights that is the Disney Corporation.
Yeah, it was Warner Chappell and also a music branch of the Disney company.
Yeah. The claim meant that ads were placed on the video and that Warner Chappell got 100% of the profits. However, eventually the situation was resolved after fans started to boycott Disney products, and Lucasfilm itself actually got involved, telling Warner Chappell to remove the claim.
Yeah, now,
Yeah.
this is an interesting one, because it's not very often that a boycott against Disney resolved itself as quickly as this one did. But people were furious with this boycott. Some people were even going so far as to say that they weren't going to watch Avengers Endgame because they were so tired of Disney pulling these tricks. All these small little things that just get you so frustrated at Disney. But then you suck it up because you want to watch the films like Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame. But apparently the boycott was growing a lot bigger than usual. And I love the fact that this time they got their results. Disney was actually able to bend the knee and be like, okay, you know what? Fine. We'll remove our ads. You can have your movie back. We're sorry. And it's not very often you hear Disney actually say,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They always
Yeah.
say something along the lines of, I'm sorry that you're offended by what we did.
Yeah.
That's very rare for Disney, but but it's a good thing this whole situation was resolved pretty much with Disney and Lucasfilm's blessing, so
Yeah.
and they could move forward with that. So, but yeah, that's pretty interesting news right there.
Definitely. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for our segment of the weekly wrap-up. And now, without further ado, it's time for us to enter our next little segment, Trailer Talk. And in this segment, Brian, Ira, and I will talk about some of the latest trailers to drop within this week and give a little bit of our feedback on this. And again, all these trailers that we're talking about have been released, so you feel free to watch them on YouTube. And if you have a particular opinion about these trailers, we would love to hear them. Now, our first trailer is the much anticipated trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home. The U.S. release date is July 5th, 2019, starring Tom Holland, Jake Gyllenhaal, Samuel L. Jackson, and others. And the synopsis is that Peter Parker's relaxing European vacation takes an unexpected turn when Nick Fury suddenly shows up in his hotel room. Parker soon finds himself donning the Spider-Man suit yet again to help Fury stop the evil Mysterio from wreaking havoc across the continent, and it was directed by John Watts. Now, I would like to clarify, because people have been curious about this. I believe this movie takes place after the events of Infinity War.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually confirmed that it's going to take place, I guess, like minutes or something after Infinity War. But yeah, we still have to wait for. I mean,
Apparently, it's after the events of Endgame.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
it takes place after the entire entire Infinity War Endgame story. So yes, this will probably have a few spoilers, like the fact that, hey, Spider-Man's alive.
So,
Yeah.
we still got to wait for Endgame to see how all this happens, how Spider-Man is still alive, and things like that. But
we still don't know too much about Endgame.
But
we know
yeah,
that Captain Marvel has a huge role to play. But let's focus on the trailer.
But I was gonna say the trailer itself is pretty amazing though, because look, it's we're getting to see Mysterio for the first time in live action.
Yeah.
So,
We see Mysterio for live action, and it's also the first time we get to see Hydro Man. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Hydro Man, this guy basically had the same abilities as Sandman in the comic books, but instead of manipulating sand, his entire body was constructed out of water.
yeah, and so also the villains are said to be the elementals in the movie, and a lot of people have a theory that the that people like Sandman or Hydro Man are actually going to be elementals and they're going to be illusions created by the Mysterio.
That's what I assume as well, because we see Mysterio play the hero cards, like you don't want to be involved in this, and you see him fight Hydro Man, which makes me assume that Hydro Man and Sandman are going to be optical illusions, perhaps, because that was Mysterio's whole thing. He's a failed special effects artist who started making special effects to make himself look like the hero. Spider-Man foils him. He goes into a revenge streak against Spider-Man.
That sounds similar to, I guess, Incredibles.
Yeah.
There are actually two different versions of this synopsis for the film out there. The other one, the one that we didn't use, actually has it framed as Mysterio helping Spider-Man take down the Elementals and portraying him in a heroic role. So it sounds like wires got crossed somewhere for the surprising twist. So I mean, come on, we could see this. It's a Mysterio. Come on,
it's semi.
He's gonna turn evil.
Yeah, if you've never read the comic books, it's easy to be surprised. But if you read the comics and you know how Mysterio is, then you already know that he's going to be a villain by the end of the day. It's just you get to see him play fake hero for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely interested. I'm glad that Spider-Man's suit is basically his usual suit. I kind of figured he would use the Iron Spider outfit.
Also, did you guys see I guess they showed it for a quick second, I guess, but they showed the stealth suit, I think.
Yeah, he's got at least two new suits. He's got the standard suit that he had in Homecoming. There's a variant of it where the blue is black now, and it appears to have sort of gliding under the armpits, which is, it's been in a lot of suits in the comics. And now we've got the stealth suit, which is it's all black. That's really it.
Yeah. And it's cool and all, but I also kind of just missed the days where Spider-Man had just one suit, and he didn't rely on a lot of tech. Because in Homecoming, he had the Stark suit, where it had all these different web formulas and stuff.
Hey, actually, the Spider-Man video game from last year actually introduced the idea of Spider-Man having multiple suits to different people, though. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and I like the idea and everything. Anyways, the next little trailer, one that me and Brian have been very excited to talk to you guys about within this week, is the trailer for John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. Would you like to take this one away, Brian?
Yes, the U.S. release date is May 17th, 2019, starring Keanu Reeves, Halle Berry, Lance Reddick, and many others. The synopsis is legendary hitman John Wick must fight his way out of New York when a $14 million contract on his life makes him the target of the world's top assassins. Directed yet again by Chad Stahelski. Now this picks up pretty much directly after the end of John Wick 2, wherein he violates the rules of the Continental Hotel, which is, this giant hotel for assassins, and kills someone on their grounds, who happens to be a member of the mysterious High Table, which appears to control most of the contract killers in the world. They are sort of this cabal of assassins.
Yes, and because of this, John Wick is marked excommunicado. And what that means is that once his contract is put up, it's available to every single assassin everywhere connected to that syndicate, which basically led up to the fact where in John Wick Chapter 3, it is basically John Wick versus the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let me just say, if you were a huge fan of the high octane action that was in John Wick 1, and you were excited that it got cranked up an extra scale in John Wick Chapter 2, John Wick Chapter 3, from what it looks like, they cranked up the dial and then ripped it right out of the machine.
Yeah, you got them riding horses and fighting against dudes with katanas.
Yeah,
and
there's a
motorcycles,
scene. Yeah, there's a scene where he's on a motorcycle and there's 8 other people all lined up in 2 even rows coming up behind him.
Yeah, I'm also interested in seeing Halle Berry's new character in this one as well. So she's a hitman called Sophia, who he's worked with in the past. So
And she
That's
uses
gonna be-
she uses 2 German shepherds.
Yeah.
And you get to see them in action too, and that looks really cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this John Wick. Yeah, if you were a fan, I guess the first 2 movies, then this you should be hyped for this one.
This trailer and this movie are so sort of hard to describe in words because it's so visually based. We really just have to recommend you go watch the trailer. We can't do it justice by just describing it.
Yeah, the people who worked on John Wick clearly have a love for visuals, making everything look great. And not just in the John Wick franchise, but also in another movie that was worked on by the same creators, Atomic Blonde, another movie that I would highly recommend for people to watch. Charlize Theron is the main character and whatnot. But yeah, it is something that you have to watch to truly appreciate how epic it is. A lot of people say John Wick is a really epic action movie, but they can't explain why. You have to watch it for yourself to truly get it, you know? But it's going to be a fun one. Very fun. Now, the next trailer, I'm also going to pass this along to Brian, since he's a huge Rooster Teeth fan.
Yeah, this last trailer is for Genlock. It is sort of the release trailer for it, as it's releasing next week on January 26th, 7 days from now. Starring Michael B. Jordan, David Tennant, Maisie Williams, and a lot of others. The synopsis is set on in a dystopian future Earth in which cultural divisions are solved through fighting in giant mecha robot armor. It follows a diverse cast of young pilots, which is a very vague description.
Yeah.
It's created and directed by Gray Haddock.
Yeah.
Now, this trailer finally gave us some more insight into the world and the technology. We know the 2 main opposing factions are the Vanguard, who our heroes work for in the military, and the Union, who is... We don't know a lot of their motivation other than they have smoke monsters, it looks like.
Yeah, usually unions are just groups of people who are tired of oppressing authorities, usually. So it might be like one of those... bad rebellion groups, perhaps, but they might have their own motives and whatnot. But
yeah,
I'm interested in it only because of the fact that I love mecha fights. I don't really get to watch mech anime very often. I've been dying to watch a Gundam series that isn't Iron-Blooded Orphans. And these fight scenes look epic. It seems that the way they fight is the same way that they fight in Pacific Rim. Your mind is like neurally connected to that of a giant mech.
Yeah.
So then your movements are that robot's movements. While in Pacific Rim, you had to have 2 pilots to share each half of the suit. In Genlock, it's just one person having full autonomic control of their own mech.
Yeah, and it appears they're not actually in the mech, but it's sort of their mind is placed into the mech body from a remote location. Like Avatar, kind of.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And it looks fun. I want to watch it just for the fight scenes. And also because I can never get enough of David Tennant in anything. He's a really great actor. I like him.
Well, the show will be, again, launching next Saturday on the 26th. The first episode will be free to everyone, and the second episode, launching the same day, will be exclusive to First members for, I believe, a week.
Yeah, and by first, we mean Rooster Teeth First.
Yep, their subscription service.
Yes. Now, that about does it for Trailer Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Again, these trailers are available on YouTube. We'd love to hear your guys' opinion on what you think of these trailers. Feel free to give them a watch and then drop a comment below. Now, without further ado, it's time for us to go into our discussion pieces for today's episode. And the first one is surrounding Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, the Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLC that recently came out forces your character into a heterosexual romance. This is despite the fact that the game allows you to control your character's sexuality, no matter who they're interested in, whether they're gay, straight, bisexual, asexual. You had the option to really do whatever you wanted to do. The game's creative director, Jonathan Dumont, stating before release that your character would not be forced into a romance. But, however, the latest DLC ends up with players forced into a relationship with a character of the opposite gender and then having a child. And they tried to explain this, saying that, you know, it kind of bases itself around history, how back in the day you just had to have a child to carry on the legacies and whatnot. But then again, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a game that reaches a certain point to where historical accuracy is no longer significant within the game. You take place back around that time, but then there's gods, there are aliens, there are monsters, there are ancient artifacts, and so on and so forth.
They had the Minotaur in this game. They've just sort of given up. And I can see from a storytelling standpoint why they'd need the main character to have a child. It's, you know, all about continuing the lineage of the assassins and this, that. It makes some sense. But you also exist in a world with aliens and advanced, pre-human civilizations that actually created humans. You have set up the science of there being technology to create humans. It seems like you could have had it so the child was created by either, taking a sample of the character's DNA and whoever their, lover is, if they have one, be they, male, female, same gender, opposite gender, or even if they're on their own, just have it, take the character's DNA and create a child out of that. There are options here because you have set up the sci-fi element so vaguely that you could have done this better. Mm-hmm. And the director, Jonathan Dumont, has since come out and apologized, saying they missed the mark, and that in the next DLC you will be able to choose whether the relationship you're in is romantic or purely utilitarian. But it's already happened. You're essentially saying, yeah, in 2 months you can buy the next episode of this DLC to try to restore some semblance of control over your character. What makes it even worse is that there was a trophy for getting married and having a kid called Growing Up, which got a lot of backlash because it sort of implied that, having a homosexual relationship or having no relationship was just a phase you have when you're a kid. And to grow up, you have to get married and have a child, which is just so mind-bogglingly offensive.
Yeah.
And
now, for me personally, as a heterosexual guy, I never really focused too much on the whole aspects of, romance in particular sexualities. So I'm afraid I'm not really too experienced in that field to give my opinion on that. What I am upset about, though, is the fact that Ubisoft lied about having the option to choose what you wanted to do in that scenario. Because that was the whole thing that Ubisoft promoted. When you played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you had multiple options to do whatever it is that you wanted to do. You can get into fights, you could just run around, you could interact with people, you could flirt with anybody, or you could flirt with absolutely nobody. You had your options, you had your choices. And then this DLC feels like Ubisoft pulled the rug from underneath. It's like, oh, remember when we said that you had the option to do whatever you wanted to do? Well, not this. We get to decide what that happens for you. And that's where I get upset. If you want people to have open options, don't have your DLC potentially destroy the choices that they had, because that's only going to create backlash.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bisexual, and it was actually really great to see a game let you be bisexual or asexual or whatever you wanted, because that is so rare in games. Even some of the most progressive RPGs out there, from like BioWare, the Dragon Age, or Mass Effect, they typically have, the token same-sex romance for your character, and that's, out of a choice of 10, typical heterosexual relationships. Mm-hmm. And it's always felt like the LGBT community has been an afterthought. They add a token inclusion just to, make sure we're represented, to make sure they can be labeled as progressive. But it felt like this game really just let you be you. Mm-hmm. And for them to not even say that they were going to do that and not actually have it in the game, but to have it in the game and then to take it away, it hurts.
Yeah, and I could see why it's offensive. Because I personally, when it comes to that whole subject, I just wish that it could be, when it comes to like LGBTQ stuff and things like that, I wish it could just be included into a game without it having to be tokenism. I like games where that option's there, but it's nuanced. It's not a major selling point. It's not plastered all over video game news articles saying that that's like a huge option in the video game. It's just something that's casually there.
Yeah, and while they did, advertise that a lot leading up to Odyssey, it didn't feel like tokenism. It just felt natural. They didn't, in the game, they didn't make a big deal about, you can, have a gay romance with this character. You can just be who you are.
Yeah, and we need more video games like that. So it's kind of messed up that Ubisoft kind of pulled the rug under us when it came to that whole scenario.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, it is what it is, though, pretty much.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Happened. It can't be undone, no matter how much they try to justify it or say it'll change in the next episode. They've done this, and I don't think we should forget that, especially in the lead up to the next Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, most gamers never really forget, so it's...
Yeah. I won't.
Anyways, another thing that people have never forgotten is that EA just sucks when it comes to Star Wars nowadays. And here's where the next discussion piece comes in. EA has canceled their open world Star Wars game. The game was being worked on by EA Vancouver, who had taken over the project from Visceral after the studio had closed. Rumored reasoning is that EA wanted a Star Wars game released sooner and will push out a game for release in late 2020. And this is what frustrates me, because it confuses me. I try to understand this, and it doesn't make any sense. So maybe you guys could help me understand this. EA decided to cancel the Star Wars game because they figured they won't make enough money out of it. They tried to put some work into it. Things got delayed. They figured they didn't get to make any money, and they decided to scrap it. At what point in time do you think the easier way to make money is to cancel a game you already worked on and then rush out another game of that same franchise after this backfired so badly with the events that were Star Wars Battlefront 2?
This is even more complicated, given that this is technically the second time this game has been canceled.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, this game was being worked on by Visceral under Amy Hennig, the director of the first two Uncharted games.
The original Dead Space developers.
Visceral is a great studio. And they were making it as a linear story-based Star Wars game. It wasn't going to be open world. It was going to be like Uncharted in that it tells you a linear story, and you get invested in the characters. It was called Project Ragtag, and eventually Visceral was just shut down suddenly. So the project was transferred over to EA's Vancouver studio, who rebooted it as a open world game. And it was really a reboot in name only. They were reusing the assets, but they were completely redoing the story. And at the time, EA basically admitted that they were doing it just so they could get more microtransactions out of the thing, so they could make it more profitable. Because that's what you do with open world games. You tack on multiplayer.
Yeah, even Rockstar and Take-Two is doing that with Red Dead 2. Even though they were good.
Ridiculous.
That's true.
But now this has been canceled, and it looks like because the development cycle of the game, because it had to be rebooted, it was going to put it at a release date of 2021, maybe even 2022, given how things were going. But EA needed something to launch towards the end of 2020, and they wanted it to be Star Wars related because that makes a ton of money. So they decided to cancel this game and have EA Vancouver move their resources over to quickly,
this other Star Wars game, whatever it is.
Yeah, grinding out a game in about 2 years, I guess. Maybe a little less than 2 years at this point if they want to make Holiday.
EA still has the Jedi game, apparently.
That's Jedi Fallen Order, which is being worked on by Respawn, the Titanfall developers.
It was awkwardly mentioned at E3 last year.
Yeah, we know it exists. We know it's supposed to be coming out by the end of 2019. Do not be surprised if it gets delayed. Or maybe that's why they want to, push out another Star Wars.
Yeah, it could be that game that they delay or something.
Hey, you know what? That could be the case.
Yeah,
I'd be looking forward to that one.
The one bright spot in this is that apparently EA did not lay off anyone for the cancellation. It looks like they were just refocused on a different project. No one got laid off, it looks like. So
that's good.
No one lost their jobs over, EA's greed, so that's good.
Yeah, that's a good relief. Okay, on to our last little discussion piece, one that has me and Brian and everybody really in total confusion.
Yeah.
Machinima, the company that has made a lot of video game YouTube videos.
Like Red versus Blue, I think, or something.
I think they started.
That was
Rooster Teeth.
Yeah, that's them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I believe Machinima did the Sonic for Hire franchise.
They did.
Mega Man Dies at the end.
Yeah, they've been around since 2000. They've been around longer than YouTube has. They've been hugely influential on YouTube, on pop culture in general, and they're this massive multi-channel network there where a lot of YouTubers got their start. They sign up with them, they get some more support, though that got less and less lucrative towards the end.
Yeah. But anyways, it would seem as though Machinima has wiped every video from their YouTube channel. Machinima was recently acquired by Otter Media, and most of their staff and content creators were transferred over to full screen, with all others being dropped. And it seems as if there is nobody in Machinima right now.
Yeah, so Otter Media is owned by AT&T, and Otter Media owns Full Screen, which owns Machinima and other companies like Rooster Teeth, and the company behind Crunchyroll and Verve is also owned by Otter Media. They are a big thing. But it looks like the Machinima getting acquired by Otter Media, they didn't really want the Machinima brand, as it isn't quite as prestigious as it used to be. They just wanted the talent inside of it to transfer it over to full screen and probably divvy it up. I wouldn't be surprised if some people end up in the Rooster Teeth network, if some people end up in other networks, and just cutting anyone they didn't want. As far as we can tell, Machinima is just completely empty right now. We don't know if there's anyone working at it.
So it sounds like a game trailer situation to me, where they were shut down pretty much for after like in 2015 and transferred to another channel like Easy Allies. That's where they are. That's what they are now. So hopefully that's a similar situation here, where since Machinima, if it's shut down, it'll transfer into something else, like what happened with them, pretty much.
Yeah, and what I find odd about it is that we just haven't really gotten an explanation as to why. Now, of course, this was around the time that we were looking it up. Hopefully, there is a report on this by the end of this episode or whatnot. But it's odd. I thought Machinima was doing well. I genuinely thought Machinima was doing well, and I'm surprised that it's gone, completely. You know.
They have been having money problems in the past, and there have been a few controversies like undisclosed sponsorships back in 2013 to promote both the Xbox One and later the Shadow of Mordor game that came out. They have had their problems, but it's kind of scary to see just how quickly this massive, massive collection of internet history disappeared. They didn't warn former creators so they could back up the work they spent. Like, some people spent 7 years at Machinima creating one show of, week over week. That's 7 years worth of content that's just gone. And we're not sure if there are backups. We're not sure if it just disappeared.
I mean, you can only hope that there might be some available in, like, maybe the Wayback Machine or something like that. I could hope, but I'm not entirely sure.
We do have an update. Otter Media
wonderful.
sent a statement to Kotaku about the future of Machinima. It reads, "We are focused on creating new content with the Machinima team, which will be distributed on new channels to be announced in the coming months. In the meantime, the Machinima network of creator channels continues to showcase the talents of the network. As part of this focus on new content, we have pivoted from distributing content on a handful of legacy-operated channels." That is the most nothing statement ever, and it essentially just calls the main Machinima channel as part of just this handful of older channels they're not doing anymore. They don't say anything about, is this saved anywhere? Will, creators get access to their work that they spent years on? Or is it just, oh, sorry, you worked with Machinima, 7 years of your career is gone now?
Man, it really is a nothing statement. It's like, we want everybody to do really good, and we're going to spread them out through different channels. But then we also realize that Machinima was just a part of a whole bunch of other channels that we also didn't want to work on. So then, if you don't want to work on these channels, why are you going to create more channels to distribute more people to?
And just relegating Machinima to a legacy channel. It's a legacy channel. It has a huge legacy. It is one of the original great channels of YouTube. It is one of the.
It is. It's an iconic channel. There ain't very often where you find legacy channels, and each one has their own specific reasons for themselves being iconic. Ray William Johnson was an iconic YouTube channel because it was one of the first internet reaction ones. Filthy Frank was an iconic YouTube channel because it was back in the age where you can create really offensive stuff and not get copyright striked. And Machinima is an iconic channel because it was one of the first few for video games. Yeah. But I mean, it's like a 50-50 honor. It's like, yeah, it feels good that we're iconic, but then you're also giving the implication that we're done. When I feel like Machinima wasn't done, it's just they were looking for more stuff to do.
It was, and this is just, I don't know, this is just depressing, really.
Yeah.
It's sad to see history being so easily swept away for the means of corporate consolidation.
For sure. Well, that about does it for today's episode. So, Brian, I'm going to let you wrap things up while I get the music playing.
Yep. Thank you for joining us today. I know that some of this was a bit depressing or a bit of a downer, but we appreciate having you so much. Thank you for watching The Phone Booth and all of KXVS, the Voice of San Joaquin's content. We'll have more great content coming up later. I know that some of our people are down covering the Stockton women's market. And just one more time, from the bottom of our heart, thank you. You have a good day.
Yeah. See you.